What's up, everybody? My name is Nicky. Welcome back to a brand new video and a new video series format. And today we're going to be reviewing the final match of the Pokemon World Championships 2024. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. I hope you guys enjoy. So we got Yuta versus Luca. When we look at both teams here, they're both extremely unique in their own rights. And let's start off with Yuta's team as presented first. We got Landorus Incarnate, we got Urshifu Rapid Strike, we got Iron Valiant, Pelipper, Amoonguss, and Calyrex Ice Rider. A lot of things to take note here about this team is that this team feels extremely unique and extremely almost out of the ordinary. Obviously, you got your Calyrex Ice Rider, which I basically predicted we were going to see a lot of in the tournament, which we did see a lot of Calyrex Ice and Shadow Rider. But we also have Urshifu, which common staple now at this point when you have restricted Pokemon, right? But uniquely, we got Iron Valiant, which, if I am not mistaken, now I didn't see the full tournament results, but I think it is the only Iron Valiant in the entirety of the tournament, carrying Wyguard, which is really, really good, alongside Pelipper with Wyguard as well. Pelipper the GOAT. I was rooting for Pelipper to be this high, and Pelipper has managed to be at a very high performance right here. We got Amoonguss as well, doing some support shenanigans, of course, and Landorus that can actually take care of Fairy-type Pokemon, especially Pokemon like a Miraidon, for example, that might carry the Terra Fairy. Having Sludge Bomb is very, very important, especially that it has the Choice Scarf, making it a lot more faster than most other Pokemon. A lot of things to keep note here is that this team is very Trick Room oriented, with a few fast Pokemon here and there kind of like scattered around to help out Yuta, kind of like set the stage a little bit. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see this unfold for the very first time. If you haven't seen the match, please go check that out. It's a really good match. Diving in here with the second team, Luca has such very, very, very powerful Pokemon on his team. We got Miraidon, which Miraidon has been a staple of Regulation G ever since the one player that has won the first ever regional tournament with a Miraidon. Ever since then, Miraidon has been popular because Miraidon hits hard, especially. And with that Choice Specs plus that Hydron engine, getting that electric terrain up is extremely volatile for Miraidon to get those Giga Boosts on both Volt Switch and Electro Drift. And usually at the very beginning of this, we would used to see Discharge, but this time around, a lot of Miraidons, and especially during this tournament, we saw we're running Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, which is actually a lot more better because they're going to be hitting for not only stab super effective, but also hitting even more harder towards a lot of other Pokemon, like Fire-type Pokemon, like Urshifu, for example, or, Dark-type Pokemon, like Incineroar. Which, by the way, Incineroar wasn't really there this tournament. Actually, in the top 8, there was no Incineroar, which is insane. We got Ogerpon. Ogerpon's here, boys, which is actually a really good redirection Pokemon in general. Alongside Amoonguss on Yuta's part. We have Urshifu here, of course, classic. Iron Hands with Terra Bug, very interesting Terra type, but it's actually very smart because in comparison to a Terra Grass, this would make Iron Hands not weak to Calyrex Ice Rider, which is kind of the point of what this Iron Hands can basically do here, is that he's not weak to fucking any Ice type moves. Because if it was like Terra Grass, for example, which is the generic set that Iron Hands usually has, is Terra Grass, and then afterwards has like Dream Punch, Wild Charge, Fake Out, and whatever other move it would have, like Protect or what have you. But in this case, it's Terra Bug. Now again, Terra Bug seems very weird, but like I said, for the Ice typing coverage, especially when Calyrex Ice Rider is extremely popular, it is very, very good. Plus, well, it's still weak to some types, like, flying and fire. It's still a solid type to Terrasilize into as a very good, last moment thing to do. We got Whimsicott here for support, obviously, with Encore, Light Screen, Tailwind, and Moonblast. with the Cobra Cloak, so no fake out shenanigans there. And finally, for Farigiraf, which that's my favorite Pokemon of my editor. My editor's favorite Pokemon. That's a lie. My editor hates Farigiraf. Anyways, with Foul Play, which came in clutch this entire tournament. So, with that being said, let's dive right into the final match. Now, obviously, again, this was managed to be a 3-game play, with Luca winning the first game and Yuta winning the second game. But now we're going to go on to game number 3. We're going to start off game number 3 here with this very, very lead here. So, now, this is looking at both trainers' Pokemon here, with the Hydron engine coming in with the Miraidon. So, as you can see here, Luca comes in, brings out the Ogerpon and Miraidon, while Yuta brings in the Goat, Iron Valiant, and Ice Rider Calyrex. Very important to take note here is that there's nothing really Yuta can do here to actually, like, you know, give in too much pressure, aside from, like, maybe going for a bunch of Glacial Lances and, you know, trying to hit extremely hard here, because obviously if it wants to go for, I don't know, a high horsepower, it probably wants to go directly for the Miraidon. However, Ogerpon here can definitely redirect any hit whatsoever, and Miraidon can pick up a KO at any given point. So it's a very, very interesting like lead here for Yuta and for Luca, because Luca actually kind of has the advantage here a little bit with this lead, but that doesn't mean that Yuta can't actually, like, you know, come back here if ever like Luca decides to Terrasilize and go for a Dazzling Gleam. This means that, you know, he can just go for Wide Guard here and just, like, you know, keep it chill, keep it safe. And now what's very, very interesting here is that with the Electric Terrain finally here, Iron Valiant has the speed advantage. It outspeeds Miraidon. This Iron Valiant is built to outspeed Miraidon inside of Electric Terrain, which is actually really, really good. It's actually a really, really good thing to take note here. As you can see, everything gets activated, the Mold Breaker gets activated, everything gets activated. And now here we go with a match here. Now, we get to see the two players here kind of being super duper focused here on what play they're gonna have to do. Now, again, obviously, right now, Luca is thinking to himself, I have to follow me. There's no other choice. And Miraidon can probably go for a Volt Switch here and maybe bring out the Iron Hands here, or even better than that, if he Terrasilizes and maybe, like, doesn't think that, you know, Yuta's gonna go for a Wide Guard here this turn. Maybe, just maybe, he can pick up a KO and leave Calyrex Ice Rider very, very low. So, here is the follow me here. As I stated, the follow me is extremely crucial here, because if Yuta decided to go for any other thing with Iron Valiant right now that's not Wide Guard or anything else, this meant that, you know, whatever happens, happens. I think there's a lot of things that Yuta could have done here to maybe, like, prevent the follow me play going on, but this is probably the most interesting play here in the entirety of the tournament, and that is going for the coaching on to the Calyrex Ice Rider. Well, Ice Rider is gonna go and just exist calmly, and Miraidon goes directly for a Draco Meteor onto the Calyrex, leaving Calyrex at 14 HP. Keep that in mind. That is a very scary amount of HP for Calyrex right now. Miraidon doing the exact job that it needed to do, and both players are basically at the edge of their seat right now. It is hyper giga important to realize that, you know, maybe Yuta doesn't want to, you know, go ahead and attack directly or whatever, and maybe instead he would like to maybe get that Trick Room up immediately, which he does. He alternately gets that Trick Room. Now, this could have been a very interesting play here. If Yuta would have potentially, I don't know, guessed that Calyrex would have lived a Draco Meteor here, this would have been such a perfect chance to go for a straight Glacial Lance on both Pokemon and picking up that KO onto the Miraidon, which would be insane, would be insanity, right? It would be crazy to even think about. But also, keep in mind that if Luca would have went for example, Spirit Break onto the Miraidon, that would have been directly redirected to the Ogerpon. So either way, I feel like this is just a safe play for Yuta, no matter what, and Luca did a pretty good job on focusing on the main target here, which is the main restricted Pokemon of Calyrex Ice Rider. But now with Twisted Dimensions here, what is going to happen here is that, well, Yuta's going to have the speed advantage, no matter what. With that out of the way here, we get to see a switch here from Miraidon. So this is the important part here. As I said at the very beginning, it was either Volt Switch into one of these slots, and then afterwards, like, maybe potentially picking up the KO, especially that the Electric Training is there, and, you know, just allowing, you know, Miraidon to get in the back pretty safely without any, like, you know, any concern, and get that Iron Hands already early in, or, you know, whatever, right? Which, honestly, the Draco Meteor works here. It works very, very fine, and then afterwards, Iron Hands can come out pretty safely here, and just kind of like chill here in the meantime. Now, Iron Hands could potentially Terrasilize into Terra Bug, but it's not really necessary since obviously there's not really like a threat for it at this current time, and I don't think Terra Bug would be very, very necessary due to the fact that there is, you know, the threats here of, like, for example, Pelipper and Amoonguss in the back. Plus, it's not really that big of a deal. But the Iron Rider does manage to get a little bit of switch here and bring out the Pelipper, which honestly is a pretty decent play. It's not a bad play in any way, shape, or form, because Pelipper coming in here allows it to set up the rain, which means Weather Ball can come in directly to Ogerpon and potentially pick up the KO on Ogerpon. However, Ogerpon is still pretty healthy, so if Ogerpon does decide to Terrasilize onto this turn, Yuta has a very strong advantage here. Unfortunately, we do have the Iron Hands here with Fake Out Pressure, which could lead to some shenanigans here onto the Pelipper or onto the Calyrex Ice Rider. But Calyrex Ice Rider does have access to Protect, so if he doesn't protect this turn, he's pretty much chill. Now the Spiky Shield goes onto the Ogerpon here, which it's not really great. But then we get the Glacial Lance here. Now, before anyone says otherwise, Glacial Lance does not physically contact the opponent, which means that even though it's a physical attacking move, it does not physically contact Ogerpon, which means that Calyrex is pretty much chilling and does not lose any HP here. However, this is massive damage going into the Iron Hands here because of that coaching boost. This is very, very, very crucial here, and honestly, it is what's making Yuta kind of putting him to a solid lead right now. All things considered, with the back basically against the wall here, a little bit, with that Calyrex being in a very low HP, it is actually a very solid play. Now, in my personal opinion, if the Iron Hands decides to go for like Fake Out on Calyrex, it's GG's. However, Ogerpon can also redirect most of the moves, so there's a lot of things you have to like think of here. Now, again, instead of Pelipper, you could also say, oh, I could switch out for Amoonguss here and get that recovery with Pollen Puff, which honestly that could have been a decent solid choice, but obviously this is a more of an offensive play having Pelipper in, because Pelipper could just casually stay in here and just kind of exist in a sense. And honestly, I don't think Yuta would have minded if Pelipper were to, you know, have fainted. For example, the Miraidon would stay in the active spot just a little bit longer. Pelipper does come back though, so this is the thing. This is the thing that I was stating. Maybe, just maybe, the Pelipper play was, of course, preparing for like maybe a Miraidon attacking in, and then afterwards he can just switch out to Amoonguss right after the Pelipper gets knocked out, because again, Pelipper doesn't really do too much into this match, but that's completely fine. But then the Calyrex protects himself. Now, again, this is also wasting a little bit of turns of Trick Room, which is a little bit unfortunate, obviously, but that's completely a-okay. The Fake Out here with the Iron Hands, which honestly, you know what? I feel like that was probably a solid play regardless, because Pelipper could have threatened Ogerpon and or Iron Hands here with very, very strong damage with either Weather Ball or Hurricane, so that is a very decent play here. And the Ivy Cudgel going into the Calyrex Ice Rider. So we get to this part here where there's a terrestrialization onto Luca's Ogerpon here. So this is a very interesting terrestrialization here where Luca, honestly, he kind of is going to terrestrialize into Fire Ogerpon here, because this actually makes him a lot more resistant to any Glacial Lance coming in. So that's really, really good on his part. Now, he goes for the Rage Powder instead of the healing. This is a very interesting play here. Now, this right here is probably meant to be in case, you know, Calyrex gets potentially damaged by either two Pokemon. The only issue with that play would have been if Ogerpon did not terrestrialize there, then that Rage Powder would have not worked as well. But as you can see, the beautiful call here, the beautiful play call from Yuta to go for the Rage Powder here, and that fucking Ogerpon terrestrializes into Tera Fire, which means every attack goes directly to Amoonguss instead of the Calyrex, which honestly very good here, because the low sweep did came in with the Iron Hands here, and now we could go here with a beautiful Glacial Lance, picking up that KO onto the Iron Hands, which is extremely crucial here, a very crucial KO there. Now, no healing here also means that whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens, right? So if the Amoonguss survives this Ivy Cudgel, which it doesn't, unfortunately, yeah, it kind of sucks, because even though it is Tera Fire here, with the rain, no, it's unfortunate here, because like with the rain here, you would think that it wouldn't do that much damage, but it did. So honestly, what would have been a little bit of a better play, to maybe potentially prevent that, would have been to terrestrialize into Tera Fire, but like even then, I feel like regardless if Yuta were to terrestrialize to Tera Fire in the mix of the moment, it would have probably not have changed much into the outcome, because you still have Miraidon in the back and potential Farigiraf that can come in at any given point. Now we have Pelipper that comes in here to this game here, and we get the Farigiraf, as you can clearly see, and as I clearly predicted as well. So with the Electric Terrain up, it gives a little bit of a boost of its defensive stats, which means that no matter what, Farigiraf is living hits here. Farigiraf is just going to live a lot of hits. So there's not much that Yuta can do here, aside from, you know, picking up the KO on one Pokemon, which is probably going to be the Ogerpon at the end of the day. So, and I believe that Trick Room is gone now? I'm not sure. And like I said, the Amoonguss terrestrializing here, it doesn't really change much. And now, here we are here with the Spiky Shield coming in hot. And here we go, boys. Glacial Lance, is it gonna KO? It doesn't. It leaves it to half. That defense boost is extremely important, extremely crucial here. And unfortunately, Calyrex does go down from a foul play, which almost solidifies the game here. Because, quite frankly, killing that Farigiraf here is kind of what made this a very hard game to kind of like, to begin with, at least. As like the way that I'm seeing this. Sometimes KOing a Pokemon can sometimes like bring you like completely like Kapusky in the game, but honestly, like I said, I feel like it was game set and done right then and there. This was a very hard team for Yuta to completely counter around with, and honestly, Yuta has played super duper well, and it's very, very impressive on how both players are just jumping in. Luca is like going either like in a more defensive stance through the entirety of this game. Luca has been playing super duper defensive with his Miraidon, and using Ogerpon as kind of like this defensive shield, like kind of like this pressure Pokemon, this weird unironic shield to protect the entire team, which is extremely important to look around with. While Yuta is basically pressuring Luca with Calyrex Ice Rider, being like, okay, well, I'm stuck in Trick Room. What do I do here? What's my possibilities? And the only way out was obviously to Terrasilize into Terra Fire, which, again, if things were to go haywire, like, for example, a high horsepower would come in from Calyrex or whatever, it would have probably cost Luca the entire game. So it is a very risky play, but also it is such a good idea to Terrasilize Ogerpon here, and maybe not waste that Terrasalization on any other Pokemon, like maybe Miraidon or Iron Hands. And then obviously here we got the Iron Valiant coming in. Now, Iron Valiant here, there is some things that Iron Valiant can do here. So this game, again, like I said, this game is not completely over because it is 2 Pokemon on both sides. Now keep in mind this when I say that, Iron Valiant is faster than Miraidon here, but here's the thing. Luca has Follow Me. That redirection is going to be so crucial right now, to the point where there's not really much you can do here, aside from hopefully KOing the Ogerpon somehow, and maybe, just maybe, they're not focusing on Iron Valiant, like maybe seeing like Pelipper as a bigger threat than Iron Valiant, which that's like the one thing that could happen, honestly, which is kind of true. You can definitely see that it is kind of a big threat, but either way, it doesn't really matter because that Pelipper is actually trained to be a little more slower to help out a little more into Trick Room. So in this case scenario, there's not much that Yuta can do here, and Luca kind of, honestly, with the Pokemon that he has left, he kind of actually gets the game. Now the game is basically all set up here, but is Luca going to go for that Follow Me is the question. And or is there's like anything that Yuta can do. Now Yuta is actually very, very smart here, Terrasilizing his Pelipper to Terra Grass just in case we ever get to see that, Electro Drift or even Volt Switch onto the Pelipper, which means that, he's kind of chilling right now. He's kind of chilling, and he gives out that helping hand onto the Iron Valiant to potentially KO the Miraidon, only if Luca doesn't Follow Me here. And unfortunately, Luca does Follow Me here. Now, Spirit Break doesn't even remotely do any damage. It does, but it's not enough to secure any like major change or even KOing the Ogerpon. Which means Electro Drift goes on to the Iron Valiant, securing the W here for Luca and winning the entirety of the tournament here, because honestly, there is nothing much that you can possibly do with Pelipper here to win the game. Both players have played super duper well. Super duper giga well. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite matches I've seen in Pokemon history. Again, there's a lot to think about in this match, both on Yuta's and on Luca's. Again, Luca could have definitely fumbled this a lot more if he were to not bring that Ogerpon, or even like not be like super duper, like at least super duper calculative when it comes to the Ogerpon. But he did such an incredible job here, and Yuta making really good predictions here, really predicting out, okay, well, I'm gonna summon my my Pelipper here just in case that Miraidon stays in during at the very, very beginning of the match. And then finally, it was just Iron Hands that comes in. It's like, okay, well, I don't want my Pelipper to die just yet, so I'm going to switch out to Amoonguss, which really benefits a lot to help out. Going for that Rage Powder, super duper crucial. But of course, obviously, the Ogerpon picking up that KO on Amoonguss, which honestly, I think that cost the entire game for Yuta from there. And then afterwards losing that Calyrex Ice Rider, things were going down. All the major pieces here, aka the Amoonguss and the Calyrex Ice Rider were gone, and now you have one major piece left, and the other one that is also a major piece that can deal a lot of damage, but in comparison to what Luca still had left, it was no match. So GG's for both players. One incredible World Championships. And honestly, I'm gonna say this right now. I should have said this in the very beginning of the video, but I am not the best at competitive VGC. Obviously, these two have not only played fantastically, but also it is not easy to play under pressure, especially when there's a large crowd right in front of you. So I applaud them a lot, and I hope you guys do as well. And they deserve a big pat on the back for a job well done. Second and first place finish is beautiful to see. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Congratulations, Luca, for winning, and congratulations, Yuta, for getting second place on the world stage. If you want me to cover more matches, or if you guys want to submit matches of your own, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys!